Bobo and Charlie were enjoying their holiday in Australia. With little to do, they were watching a show on the TV about early days in Australia when people came to search and prospect for gold in some of the outback sites across the country.
"Hey, Bobo, why don't we give it a try?"
said Charlie. Bobo laughed. "Oh, come on, Charlie, you got rocks in your head. Our holiday's gonna be over, and we'll have to be heading home soon. We haven't got time to be looking for gold." Charlie just paused for a moment, then he looked at Bobo and he said,
"You know what, Bobo? I'd like to bring Mommy something back from Australia."
Bobo replied, "There's plenty of souvenir shops and selling boomerangs and koala bears and soft toy kangaroos." Charlie shook his head and he said,
"Nah, Mommy, she always wanted to come here. I think it would be good if I could bring her back something, unique from the Australia bush."
"What do you mean by, unique?" Bobo asked.
"Well, something, what the early settlers were after, gold. Maybe even opals."
Bobo laughed again. "Prospecting, Charlie? Our chances are 1,000,000 to 1. Charlie just hummed to himself a little tune.
We may never be back here again. Come on."
Bobo just kept watching the program on the TV. But something had changed. The stories of the old prospectors began to pull Bobo in a bit. And he started to think differently. And he said,
You know what, Charlie? Maybe it's not that crazy at all. Let's give it a go."
So,
"Now you're talking, Bobo."
the next day they hired a jeep for a month, and they thought about some supplies and made a list. Then they picked up a guidebook on looking for gold, and then they mapped out a way that they would travel to Maytown on a 3-week journey and an adventure, exploring the outback, a place where only the sticks remain. When they arrived at the destination, they set up a camp near an old abandoned gold mine. And there, beside a graveyard, an old weathered headstone covered in dust, something sort of weird came over them. A cold wind blew around them, and they made their way across the graveyard to the entrance of the gold mine. The old mine shaft took them down into crooked little pathway, and there, inside the mine, there were some old carriages and a cart. Then they went deeper down into the mine, and they switched on their torches in the darkness, trying to see their way along the old track, deep underground. And suddenly they heard a hoarse voice calling out to them, "You two gold diggers! You're a long way from home, aren't you? Coming here! What you doing?" Suddenly, the ground started to shake a little, and Bobo instantly went running towards the armed man. Knocking him off his feet, as he fell to the ground, he dropped the knife that he was holding in his hand. And Bobo grabbed it before it hit the ground. Suddenly the ground opened up under their feet, and the strange figure disappeared. And all around them there was dust, and the mine began to collapse. Dust was filling the air, and then it stopped for a moment. and Charlie and Bobo ran as fast as they could and crawled their way through the rubble to a small safe section of the shaft in the mine, where they seen some light trickling through from above the surface. And then, as fast as they could get out of that place, they crawled, they ran on their feet and bended over through the little openings until they were back outside the mine shaft, where there was a sign in front of them that read, "Abandon hope, all you who enter here." Suddenly, a snake appeared from nowhere and made a lunge at them, but Bobo took the knife that was still in his hand, and he managed to strike once, twice, and stop the snake from snapping its deadly venomous jaws into their skin. Then they heard that strange sound. Across the graveyard it came, a wind that whistled and moaned as they walked across the graveyard. And then the wind stopped beside an old grave, and on the headstone there was a message, quite readable, that said, "Here lies Jack Morgan and his sack of gold buried beneath. But if I were you, I'd leave it where it is, for you don't know what it might bring into your life, and you will not know the future that it holds." And suddenly something came shining through from under the ground, and it was glowing. And Bobo and Charlie, they went over to the jeep, and they brought back some shovels and spades, and they started digging where the crack was. And there, in front of their eyes, they saw a sack that was opened, and gold nuggets inside the sack. They pulled the sack out of the hole, and they looked at each other, and they said, "We're rich! We're rich! We've struck it rich!" Oh, they're jumping and screaming. They had one last uneasy look at the gravestone.
Bobo, what if the gold doesn't belong to us? Maybe we're doing the wrong thing.
"Charlie, it's our lucky strike. It's our day. We've gone prospecting. That's what we came here for." And they took the gold sack, and they returned to the jeep, and they drove home along the outback roads. And they both still had that lingering thought about the cost of taking something that wasn't theirs. A cold wind blew in again and blew the dust across the track, and they ended up in some ghost town. Chihuahua, it was called. Buildings that were half empty and half demolished, signs that were blown down from buildings. And they got out of the jeep and they looked around and they said, "I wonder if this place is meant for us, Charlie. Maybe there's some more gold here." Bobo,
"I don't know, maybe. You know what I'm thinking, Bobo? You know the gold you took? Maybe it's not meant for us. Maybe it belongs to somebody here in this town. I think we should just leave."
So Bobo and Charlie get back into the jeep, and the engine wouldn't start. They tried and they tried, but still the engine wouldn't start. They got out of the car and they checked under the hood. It was a mysterious feeling, as the sound of a train rolling into the track at the end of the town arrived. And suddenly, out from the train, the ghostly shape of a man stepped off the train and walked up the town towards Bobo and Charlie, who felt uneasy about what was happening. Now Bobo and Charlie were looking in apprehension of what was going to happen, and the figure looked at them Well, what have we got here now? 2 gold diggers, by the look of it. What has you here in this old ghost town? Something has brought you here, and you've looked around, I think. Bobo and Charlie said,
What's going on? Who are you?
Then he said, "Me name's Jack Morgan. Used to live here. Yeah, back in the day, I was saving up money from me grow prospecting with the hope of rebuilding the town for my family who were going to live here. But, as you see, time didn't allow what I had done to be finished. And I guess maybe there's a reason you're here. Coming here to pay the cost for something you took that wasn't yours. Tell you what, you get this place fixed up a little bit for me, and I'll let you get out. How does that sound?" Bobo and Charlie looked at each other, and they nodded their heads. For some reason they knew that they had ended up here was at the cost of the gold that they had taken. And the both of them, they made their way back into the buildings looking around. And when they came out, Jack Morgan had gone, disappeared out of sight. Then they knew they had something to do before they could leave. Day by day, they began fixing up, painting and cleaning, scrubbing back places, fixing window panes. In different buildings there was building equipment and tools and all they needed to do some renovations that were needed. Then the cost of the gold started to show as the town started to come back and look something respectable. As most of the work then had been done, the train rolled in to the track, and the cold wind blew through the town, and Jack walked off the train with some people. And he smiled. "Yep, looks like you've been doing a lot of work around here, around this old ghost town. Tell you what, maybe it's time for you to go." "G'day," said one of the other people in the crowd. "You done some good things round here." Charlie nodded his head. "I think we'll let you go." They all walked out of the town and smiling. Charlie and Bobo looked at each other, and as they got back into the jeep, turned the key, the engine started, and both of them got in the jeep, and they drove off down the track, down the Outback Road, back to the place where they once